Good morning, traders. I am Emily Vani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Wednesday, February 19th. Little change, but record territory. The major averages are coming off a just barely day in the green. The S&P 500 advanced 14 points during regular trading yesterday, or about 0.25%, but still boasted a record close. The Nasdaq also tipped into the green by 14 points, or 0.07%. The Dow ended near flat, adding just 10 points, or 0.02%. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Yes, good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're down 0.09%, about a tenth of 1%. We were down a little lower, but we're seeing a little buying coming in. I mean, before the bell today, we have some housing data that's going to be released that could do something. This afternoon, we get the Fed meeting minutes. I'm not expecting any dramatic changes, but you never really know. I mean, Powell spoke last week, and you got a good update from him, but you never really know if there's dissension in the ranks, and I think the meeting minutes will likely give us that indication if there are. Trump continues to restate, his desire for, potential tariffs on autos and pharma and semiconductors. It's causing a little weakness, in trade tensions. He also indicated that he's willing to meet with Vladimir Putin of Russia to discuss a settlement on the Ukraine war. He'd like to do it before the end of the month. That's positive. Tomorrow morning, got earnings from Walmart, Alibaba, NetEase, and Birkenstock, BIRK. Those could be interesting. But taking a quick look at what's happening overseas, I mean, we're going to start off with Germany, because Germany was actually opened up higher, and now it's trading down. It's down 0.92% or 210 points. The rising trade tensions, and they're still monitoring that Ukraine Russia situation. London, the FTSE's weak by 0.57% or 49 points, and then inflation data came in above forecasts. And in France, I mean, the market's down 0.81% as luxury stocks are moving lower. The Nikkei last night in Japan, I mean, it did show some weakness. I mean, I can't say it's significant. It was only down 0.27%. But there's data that came out showed that their exports rose 7.2% year over year, making Japan a real target for possible tariffs. Hong Kong, finished lower by 0.14%. With some weakness in consumer and financial stocks, but Shanghai and China rose 0.81%. I mean, the market's still positive on tech stocks, and President Xi met meeting on Monday. That's still a key catalyst for those markets. And next month they have that big meeting going on at, what is it called, the two sessions meeting. That starts in early March. That's gonna, the markets will be looking for some policy support, stimulus coming out of those meetings. Turn our attention to oil for a second. I mean, oil is trading high. You got WTI at $72.45 a barrel. You got Brent at $76.34 a barrel. I mean, you do have the API data coming out after the bell. That's going to be a key catalyst. But this cold weather pattern that's in the U.S., that's hurting production in North Dakota. Output is expected to be reduced, which is kind of causing oil prices to tick higher this morning, Emily. And that's what I have for you in terms of morning market update report.
Bill, you highlighted a number of economic events today, and in just a moment, we're going to dive deeper into those. But before we get there, we can't miss out on earnings action, a number of earnings to know and a few to look ahead to. So, Bill, give us a rundown of what we should be watching when it comes to earnings action.
Sure. Let's start off with last night. We'll get Arista Networks. That's ticker ANET, Apple, Nancy, Edward, Tom. They beat by 8 cents. It was done on higher revenue. You look at ANET, that's down 5% this morning. Occidental Petroleum, ticker OXY, Oscar X-Ray Yellow. They beat by 13 cents, but it was done on lower revenue. Stocks down 0.74% this morning. Etsy this morning, they beat by 9 cents, but it was done on lower revenue. Stocks down 7.49% this morning. And Analog Devices, ticker ADI, Apple David India, they beat by 9 cents on higher revenue. That stock's showing a gain of 4.80% this morning. Upcoming, earnings reports. We got a number tomorrow morning that you got to pay attention to, including Alibaba, ticker BABA, Boy Apple. Their EPS is $3.08. Expected move is 8.88%. And then also tomorrow morning, Walmart, ticker WMT, William Michael Tom. Their EPS is 64 cents with the expected move of 5.17% when they release tomorrow morning.
And Bill, now to those economic events. Of course, you mentioned the Fed meeting minutes, and those are going to be important to sort of dig through clues about, where the Fed is in terms of interest rates and monetary policy. But you also mentioned a couple of other things. So let's dive in there. Give us a look at everything we should be watching when it comes to economic events.
At 8:30 a.m., we get the housing starts and building permits. That's going to be a key report. 10 a.m., you get the e-commerce retail sales. At 2 p.m., you get the Fed meeting minutes. Then after the bell, around 4:30, you get the API, American Petroleum Institute stockpile report. At 5 p.m. this evening, Fed Vice Chair Philip Jefferson is scheduled to speak. Yesterday, markets heard from San Francisco Fed Bank President Mary Daly, and she emphasized the need for restrictive monetary policy until further progress is made on inflation. She expects inflation to continue to decline over time, but mandates that the Federal Reserve should keep its policy stance restrictive until there is clear evidence of sustained progress in fighting inflation. So, kind of not really as dovish as I'd like to see, as she typically is. But that's what I have for you in terms of economic data hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
Bill, that rundown of what we are expecting from the Fed is really a perfect example of how you're using your newsware. You're looking ahead to later today on Fed Speak coming up, but you're also able to really quickly grab the information from yesterday and those comments from Mary Daly. And that's one of the best uses of newsware, not only to prepare for the day ahead, but really have a historical record of data that did come out so you can put it all together to really get a strong context on the markets and the market moving information. You look at your earnings, your economic events, but you're also looking at other types of news day in and day out. You're looking at merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news. You're grabbing catalyst calls. You're also looking at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 15 lower, 13 higher, and 2 unchanged. I'm looking at my FANG stocks. There's a little positive action in Google and Tesla, but everything else is trading lower. Some news behind it, like Google's trading higher by 0.3%. They agreed to pay $340 million to settle an Italian tax case charge. Meta Platforms, stock's down 0.4%. It broke its streak of closing higher for 20, after 20 straight days, in a row of the stock moving higher and higher, and it finally, closed a little lower. But we'll have to keep an eye on Meta this morning to see if how the stock's been trading. And I saw a news report that came out, from Dow Jones towards the end of the day that they said they expect Meta to rally into the close. And sure enough, man, it went from like 709 all the way back up to 715, which was a big move. So that was a good story that I saw yesterday. In terms of Dow Jones 30 news, Apple is expected to announce a new version of its iPhone SE today. It's going to be a low-cost model. We're looking at Apple. Shares are trading a little lower. I mean, I'd be a little cautious being long the stock, right after that announcement, because typically, they sell after the announcement, and I wouldn't be surprised if that holds today. I guess Salesforce.com, CRM, Charlie Richard Marriott. I noticed that JP Morgan is noting a healthy deal activity and general improving tone in its channel checks recently. In terms of merger news, Howard Hughes, HHH, Henry confirmed the receipt of a revised unsolicited proposal from Pershing Square. That's Bill Ackman's Pershing Square. I mean, he doesn't have a great, history when he tries to do takeovers like this, but we'll have to wait and see. Ticker FOUR, Shift 4. They're going to be requiring a Global Blue, ticker GB, for $7.50 in cash. Then we're going to talk about Intel. Buyout firm Silver Lake is in exclusive discussions to purchase a minority stake in the company's programmable chip business. Find that interesting. In terms of guidance news, ADI, Analog Devices, they see Q2 adjusted EPS $1.68, plus or minus 10 cents. Street estimates $1.66, so I call that an uptick. FVRR, Frank Victor, Richard, they see Q1 revenue coming in 103.5 million to 108.5 million. The street estimate has it at 103.13. That's an uptick. Like to see that, guys. In terms of shareholders meeting, Capri Holdings, CAPR, they're holding an Investors Day today. In terms of buyback news, ADI, Apple David India, they increased their share repurchase and authorization by 10 billion. TRMB, Tom Richard, Michael Boyd, Trimble, they announced a share repurchasing authorization of up to 1 billion. In terms of catalyst calls, NWSA, Nancy Williams, S&amp. This is News Corp. Citibank opens up a 90-day positive catalyst watch list on the stock this morning. And that's what I have for in terms of news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the free trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what is your pick of the day today?
I'm going to go with NetEase, ticker NTES, Nancy, Tom, Edward, Sam. Listen, earnings are out tomorrow morning. EPS is $1.73. Expected move is 9.08%. Yesterday's call volume, 3,494 calls versus 2,319 puts. That's pretty good. That's a good ratio. Open interest, 19,615 versus 16,170. Okay. Major brokers they're positive on the stock. Price targets are mixed, but they are positive. And in terms of an entry price, I want to get in 103.75 to 104. I think we're going to see a little morning weakness in the stock, and I think that would be a good area to get in the stock, and I think it can rally from there. But that's my pick of the day. NTES, Nancy, Tom, Edward, Sam, NetEase, Emily.
We will follow NetEase along with you today, Bill. And coming up, we will do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day. It was a pick ahead of earnings. You were looking for a specific entry price with that one. We heard at least one news item on that stock throughout the show. So stick with us to find out how that went. But ahead of that, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
Apple's out there saying the CMA's remedy options on mobile browsers will hurt innovation. Nicola, NKLA, Nancy Kilo, Larry Apple, they initiates a voluntary Chapter 11 process. Not good. WTW, they announced a strategic partnership with Cornell University. AZPN, that's Aspen Technologies. Emerson's looking to buy them out. Elliott and Associates issues a real negative statement on Emerson's deal to buy them out. Johnson & Johnson's relaunching sales of a promising heart rhythm device after a safety scare. Elon Musk X and talks to raise $44 billion valuation. Interesting, that's what he paid for. Chevron CVX plans to cut as much as a fifth of its workforce, about 8,000 people. Delta Airlines, Canadian investigators said yesterday that they sent black boxes from the airplane for alpha lab analysis. The regional jet that flipped upside down upon landing. Tesla selected two locations for showrooms in India. They're doing one in New Delhi, one in Mumbai. Rumble files a lawsuit along with TMTG against Brazilian Supreme Court Justice. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into trading in this midweek Wednesday, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Shift 4 Payments. And we did hear you mention the stock during your NewsWare Alerts breakdown about that news to acquire Global Blue. I saw a number of price target raises on the stock this morning. Even though stock is taking a hit, they did release their earnings yesterday. The company reported Q4 adjusted EPS of $1.35. That was well ahead of the consensus of $1.15. Revenue missed slightly. They reported a Q4 gross revenue of $887 million. The consensus there had been $1 billion. The company forecasted 2025 payment volume to be $200 billion to $220 billion. And the estimate there was right in the middle at $217.31 billion. A mixed bag of news when it comes to Shift 4 yesterday. As I mentioned, the stock is taking a hit. But Bill, were you able to sneak out with a gain on this one? How did your call work out?
Let's review the tape. I mean, if you look at the stock yesterday, I mean, it did open at 121.77, and I was saying under 122. So it opened up 121.77, which is a nice entry point, and then it ran and it hit a high of 126.64 and closed out at 125.66. So anyway you look at it, it beat the 1% goal that we have on these trades during the trading day. You're out. But then 4 o'clock hit and the stock dove. And I'm like, what? The earnings aren't even out yet. Turns out that they're buying out, Global Blue, for 1.5 billion, which is really causing the stock, the weakness in the stock this morning. But yesterday during the day, there was more than 1% available for you to take. So, holding into earnings isn't a good idea when you're already up big. So global, shift forward payments, FOUR, was a winner yesterday, Emily.
Take that gain when you see it, sticking to your strategy to get another win. And we will check in with you tomorrow about today's NetEase pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Vani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.